Okay, I did want to stop David, though reluctant to do so, but I wanted to make sure that we have 5 minutes now, just to pick up on any ideas, issues, connections that you've found from the presentations you've seen in this TeachMeet. I mean, I can think of a number of connections, but has anyone else got any thoughts that, or further questions you'd like to raise with us?
I just wondered how that enabled, what was the assessment of the learning with those in that work, and how did people help in that process?
Okay, what we did was, there's no assessment as such in the end, but they had the option of undertaking online activities each week. And if they completed those, they could apply for a digital badge to recognise and reward that, which we were actually quite surprised. We've not used open badges before, but we were actually quite taken aback by the numbers that were actually interested in doing that. We've not got a history of that in our sector, but it has led us to start to think about ways in which we might embed those in our provision across the piece, undergraduate and postgraduate. So they did an online activity each week, plus there were other activities they could participate in, but they were optional. They didn't have to do these.
Yeah.
Hi, just one quick one about the loops. I recall a year or so ago when it came out, it was going to be the panacea of everything. Obviously, we all know it wasn't. And you yourself said 2 months ago that it's kind of it's holistic and learning. And if that's the case, you might as well just go to Wikipedia or other forums, digital forums. That makes MOOCs redundant. What is it?
Maybe it does if all you're doing is pushing content. What we were doing was it was within a digital workbook. So the content we could push, we could change, we could modify as we were going along, and that changed in their workbooks. Plus there were interactive elements in their workbook where they can evidence their participation and use that to evidence their CPD. And for the ones that really, really engaged with it, they're now actually using the workbook to make an APO claim for credit to come on some of that awards.
Sorry, can I just move it on to try and bring in some of the other presenters? I'm guessing we could talk for a long time, and indeed we will find other opportunities to reflect on this MOOC. It's been a fantastic experience, but there are connections that we can make. And one of the things that strikes me is the co-production of knowledge. In nearly all of the presentations we've seen, including the survey that Brian and Helen presented, we see the opportunity in the classroom to use technology. That whole distinction between TEL and physical learning space is changing. That's what today is about in part, I think. Co-production of knowledge, how easy it is to enter some ideas into Padlet or into Answer Garden, which is the feedback tool you referred to, through the tweet chat method. Here we have a learning environment that involves all of us. Is there anything that anyone wants to pick up on that in terms of how that disrupts who we are?
Yeah, I thought what was interesting there is we've got lots of different experiments going on with lots of different technologies that as you say, change the way that students are learning and the way they think about learning. But what struck me is that there might be common themes in there in the process that you go through when you are experimenting. So there's certain kind of almost questions that you need to ask yourself when you're introducing these things, like how are we going to test the system and make sure it works? How are we going to introduce this to people that haven't used this type of software before? And whether as a university we need to have some kind of framework or checklist. I don't know quite how, I wouldn't want you want it to be too rigid, but something that helps people to go through that experimental process.
Okay, we are talking about disrupted learning environment. How do we scale up, to use the term? How do we get the university together moving in that sort of direction? That's what this sort of day is about. Any more responses to that point? Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, I know all these technologies are fantastic. We know that young people love technology, but we must remember that people need to keep developing their verbal communication skills as well, and mustn't be at the cost of that.
Yeah, I mean, can I respond to that? I think by bringing in more interactivity into the classroom, it does demand that we do exactly what you say. It's just the nature of that conversation maybe changes the weight of it. That would be my personal response. But of course, this is the opportunity for technology-enhanced learning now to integrate it thoroughly into the best ways we like to teach and learn. Question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm anyway, he's trying to persuade other people within our department we're going to go through a process shortly of revalidation for a 5-year period. Just over the hill we've got loads of consultants come along 12 over that are going to be IT literate more than a lot of the staff, and we need to try and persuade people that are currently sitting on top of this revalidation process that we need to incorporate all this. The problem we've got is a lot of staff are terrified, but they don't want to know, and they're going to end up, if they're not very, very careful, with the same old, and it's a written report and all this kind of stuff. Is there any mechanism within your department to come along and say, well,
Yeah, actually it's a good place to finish for the moment, I think. I think what we've learned is that in the same way that we can be more inclusive in the classroom, whether it's virtual or physical, closer to home when we're looking at PSR or what we now call peer review and enhancement, we actually need to use that time together to share practice. These sort of events are really important, but I think it's up to people like us to go back and try and keep that conversation live with PRE, because there's an urgency, I think, to do it, as you highlighted. On that, we've just run out of time, so thank you very much to the presenters and everyone.